This might sound scary, but it's real. There's a kind of death that starts long before your heart ever stops beating, and it affects millions of people without anyone noticing. First, you stop getting invited, then you're left out of conversations. Until one day, the world just acts like you don't even exist anymore. But here's what no one ever told you. This isn't about getting older. Science has uncovered something much deeper and far more dangerous. In this video, you'll understand why this invisible fading starts way before you hit 80, how it's affecting you even now, without you realizing it, and most importantly, how to reverse it before it's too late. Stop scrolling, because if you feel like you're being forgotten, this might be the most important video of your life. Someone drifting away doesn't start with obvious absences. It's not about missed birthdays or the messages that never come. It begins earlier, almost invisibly, sometimes in a reply that takes just a little too long to arrive, other times in that silence that fills a room, but no one really notices. It's in these small, almost unnoticeable moments that presence begins to dissolve, not all at once, but in fragments. The person stops being someone who's part of things and becomes someone who's just there, without really being there. It's subtle, almost see-through, but it's real, and it hurts. The good news, it can still be changed. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 5 common causes behind this kind of disconnection. These aren't diagnoses. They're emotional cracks, and any one of us can stumble into them. Let's get to the first one. Reason 1. The body stays. What leaves first is presence. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to disappear without ever leaving? They stay in the same house, do the same chores, drink their coffee at the same time. But something's different. The world around them seems quieter. It's not a sudden vanishing, it's a slow disconnection. In the details, almost no one notices. Ruth is 86 years old, lives alone, loves books, and is in good health. But there were days she went without speaking a single word to anyone. There was one day I realized. I stayed silent the whole time. I only heard the clock, she said. That's when she started forgetting simple words. I wanted to say kettle, and it didn't come. I looked at it like I'd never seen it before. It wasn't just forgetfulness. It was disconnection, a lack of exchange, a lack of being seen. There's a name for that. Micro-social engagement. Those quick, spontaneous interactions that remind us we're here. A good morning in the hallway. The smile of someone walking by. A casual question from someone who notices you exist. Without that, the mind starts to fade. Not by choice, but from a lack of being called upon. Ruth's therapist suggested an exercise. List 3 people she still crossed paths with regularly. She wrote down Camilla, neighbor, Jolma, bakery, Rubens, mailman, and decided 1 sentence per week for each of them. Nothing big. A comment, a compliment, a question. Jolma, this bread smells amazing today, huh? Rubens, you think this heat wave's gonna last much longer? It didn't take long. People started to respond, to smile, to remember her name, and Ruth reappeared, not like she was before, but present, once again, inside her own life. Now, think about this. Who are the 3 faces that still cross your day? Maybe they're the threads still connecting you to what matters. Reason 2. The fear of falling doesn't just freeze your feet. It silences your whole body. Walter was always one of those people who kept moving. At 81, he still walked to the newsstand, exchanged a few words with the neighbors, tended to the plants in his yard. Nothing major, just a series of everyday actions that kept his body alert. Until one stumble inside the house changed everything. He didn't fall, didn't get hurt, but he stopped, thought, and decided, better not risk it so much. That's when the choices started shrinking. He stopped going out alone, avoided uneven sidewalks. Then he began avoiding longer walks altogether. Without realizing it, he was teaching his body to hold back. This is more common than it seems. The fear of falling after 70 is real, but there's a tricky part to it. The more we avoid risk, the more the body loses its edge. And without practice, it loses memory. And without memory, it loses confidence. Stopping movement isn't just a change in routine. It's a quiet reprogramming. The brain gets the message, no need to send signals for that anymore. And that's when stiffness, imbalance, and slowness creep in. It was only after some time that Walter realized he wasn't sad. He was stuck, like he was losing space inside his own body. Then his daughter suggested something unusual: dance, alone, in the living room, 2 minutes a day, no rules, no choreography. At first it felt weird, but it became a habit, and with the habit came the return. First a bit more lightness, then firmer steps, until one day he went back to the newsstand. Edvaldo, the news vendor, smiled. "I thought you had disappeared." And maybe he had, but he was coming back. And you? Have you been avoiding certain paths? Feeling your body slower than it used to be? Maybe the answer isn't in stopping, but in starting over slowly. A dance, a staircase, a song. Just don't let your body believe it's already done. Reason 3. When the day loses shape, life loses direction. Clara had always been the type to organize her life like a sheet of music. There was a time for everything, from watering the plants to taking a nap. Every part of the day followed a rhythm, and she knew exactly when to fall in step. But after 80, that rhythm started to slip. Her sleep became lighter. She started waking up later. She began having coffee at 11 a.m., lunch in the middle of the afternoon, snacking at night, without even realizing the day was slipping right through her. At first, it felt like a kind of freedom. After all, why stick to rigid routines after so many years of obligations? But that freedom came with a subtle cost. There were mornings I felt dizzy and didn't know why. Other times I'd forget to eat, she said. The body isn't free from time. It depends on it. That's called the circadian rhythm, a biological clock that regulates sleep, appetite, focus, even mood. When it's thrown off, everything gets thrown off. Sleep stops being restorative. Energy fades, memory slips. And it's not psychological, it's physical, it's chemical. Without a clear signal that the day has started, the brain goes into neutral. Not fully awake, not fully asleep. Just suspended. And in that state, motivation dissolves. Just 5 more minutes in bed. I'll eat later. Maybe I won't get up today. Until the body believes it. And the day vanishes into inertia. That's when Clara heard a simple piece of advice from a friend. Have breakfast at the same time every day, even if you're not hungry. It's your way of telling your body, the day has begun. She followed the advice. At first, out of insistence, then because she started to feel the difference. Little by little, her internal clock began ticking in sync again, and with it, the shape of life returned. And you? Can you clearly say when your day begins? Or has everything become a blurry sequence with no clear starting point? Maybe the restart lies in a small gesture, a cup of coffee every day at the same time, no rush, but with presence. Reason 4. Pain that finds no way out settles in. Some feelings don't go away. They grow old with us. They don't make a scene. They don't leave. They just stay, quiet but heavy, settled in some corner of the body, in the chest, the throat, behind the eyes. That's how it was with Arnaldo, 84 years old. He lost his wife 6 years ago. Since then, his days have looked the same. Wakes up early, makes coffee, tends the plants, watches the news. He never complains, never shows emotion, never brings it up. She's gone, and talking about it doesn't change anything. She's not coming back, he said quietly, staring into nothing. But silence doesn't dissolve pain, it just reshapes it. And over time, it begins to show up in other ways. A pain in the chest, shortness of breath, no appetite. Medical tests, all normal. But something kept pressing down every single day. Psychology calls this emotional suppression, when pain is swallowed as if it could disappear on its own. But it doesn't. It takes up space. And the more space it takes, the less is left for everything else. Joy, curiosity, the desire to talk, the will to live. Arnaldo comes from a generation that learned not to show emotion. Men don't cry. They move on. They tough it out. But the body keeps score. Sooner or later it responds. It was his granddaughter who insisted. He went to a support group. For the first 2 meetings he just listened. On the third, he spoke. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was not having anyone to tell the little things about my day to. He cried, for the first time in years, and he came back different, not healed, but less alone, because giving pain a name doesn't make it bigger, it just makes it possible to carry. And you, when was the last time you said what you feel unfiltered? It doesn't have to be with a therapist. It could be a friend, a grandchild, a notebook. What you can't do is let the pain take up every room and become your only company. Reason 5. What sustains a life isn't routine, it's the meaning behind it. Ruth was always on the move. She raised 3 kids, kept the house running, made it through decades with a packed schedule and very little space for herself. For a long time, every morning started with urgency, appointments, responsibilities. But time passed. The kids moved out, her husband passed away, and suddenly the mornings went quiet. Ruth would wake up, have her coffee, and then just watch the hours go by. I wasn't sad, she said. I just didn't see a reason to start the day. That emptiness doesn't make noise, but it weighs heavy. It's that quiet and deep feeling of no longer being needed. Over time, the lack of purpose throws everything off: sleep, energy, memory, drive. And it's not about big projects. It's not about restarting a career or finding some grand mission. It's about small reasons, simple things that give the day direction. Science confirms it. People who have a purpose, even a daily one, live longer. They get sick less. They keep their minds active for longer, caring for plants, feeding a pet, organizing old photos. All of that can be more valuable than it seems. What changed Ruth was a gesture from her granddaughter. "Grandma, why don't you write little notes for the kids in the building?" She said yes. They bought colorful paper. And the notes started to appear in the elevator. "There's sunshine outside today, and a little inside too. If it rains, dance in the rain." Soon the replies came. "My son thought it was from Santa. Your note made me smile, thank you." Ruth had someone to write to again, and that changed everything. Now I wake up thinking about what I'm going to write. I have my voice back. And you? When was the last time your day started with intention? It doesn't have to be something big. Sometimes changing just a little part of someone else's day is what gives us direction again. And that someone could be yourself. If you've made it this far, it's because something resonated. Maybe you recognize someone in these stories, or maybe you recognized yourself. We've talked about 5 quiet reasons that help explain why so many people after 80 begin to disappear on the inside, even while still standing there on the outside. And none of them are about weakness or fate. They're about something more subtle and more human, presence that fades, bodies that stop without meaning to, lives without shape, pain no one hears, and days that no longer begin for any reason. But in each of these stories, there's also a crack of light, a small point of restart, just big enough to fit into the simplest gesture. Because truly, coming back to life doesn't take much. Sometimes it starts with a cup of coffee at the right time, with a short sentence exchanged in the elevator, with a step aimless across the room, with a note written with shaky hands but a full heart. If any of these stories resonated with you, leave a comment below. Which of the 5 reasons touched you the most? Or just type a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We'll read it, and you won't be alone. And if this video reminded you of someone, share it. Sometimes what a person needs most is exactly this, a subtle reminder that there's still time, time to come back, to feel, to reconnect. And tomorrow morning, before anything else, try just one thing. Say good morning to someone. It might not seem like much, but that's how the body, the mind, and life begin to remember they're still here.